the American people understand what we now are up against in this country. And as I said at the outset of the broadcast, Sidney, this is no longer about just voter fraud or electoral fraud. This is something much bigger, and this president has to take, I believe, drastic action, dramatic action, to make certain that the integrity of this election is understood, or lack of it, the crimes that have been committed against him and the American people. And if the Justice Department doesn't want to do it, if the FBI cannot do it, then we have to find other resources within the federal government. We've got to rise above this, because the nation itself, this is an assault on the core of a democracy, any democracy, our ability to cast a secret ballot. Your thoughts, Sidney, as we wrap up here?
That's exactly right, Lou. It affects the bedrock of our democratic republic. It can't be allowed to stand. And frankly, I'm about to think the entire FBI and the entire Department of Justice need to be hosed out with Clorox and fire hoses.
Well, Sidney, I think right now that you would get many seconds for that proposition. Sidney Powell, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it, and thanks for everything you're doing for this country. Any more than you were just fighting the Russia hoax. That was an effort, not a hoax, to overthrow your presidency. Not a hoax. An outright effort to overthrow the presidency of the United States that went on from the time you won the office to the time right now. The irregularities in this year's election are not just fraud, electoral or voter. They are another attempt to overthrow the President of the United States. And it's being brought to you by the very same people. While you carry out the battle, Mr. President, for the White House, I ask that you also declassify all of the information and documents related to Obamagate, and do it now. It is time the American people know the truth, the full truth, the whole truth. And we cannot trust the Justice Department, the FBI, or any intelligence agency. And even if we cannot ever restore faith in the Justice Department or the FBI, surely we can preserve the right of the American people to know. That is within your control, your power, and I urge you to use it.
So that was Lou Dobbs and Sidney Powell last night on Fox Business, basically suggesting that from the very top of the U.S. government, everything is against Donald Trump. Everything is colluding against him, against his presidency, to throw power to Joe Biden. It's absolute lunacy without any basis. And this wasn't even the only thing. We could talk about how Sidney Powell yesterday was making allegations that there were irregularities in Edison County when there is no such thing as Edison County in the state of Michigan, which she was talking about. And we can also speak about how after this, later on that evening on Fox News, Sean Hannity had on Sidney Powell, and during that she spread many of these same claims. Sean Hannity offered no pushback and even said on that episode, I don't vet the information that comes on this show, which is to say that I don't do any sort of journalistic filter, any sort of journalistic integrity as to what goes on my very popular, very significant primetime news network show. I just allow any sort of wild claim as long as it fits the conservative worldview and as long as it appeases the Trump base and indeed Donald Trump himself, who often watches my show. And so all of this happened yesterday, but these two clips in particular are maybe the worst, because what it's suggesting is that, even the FBI and the Justice Department, which is headed up by people appointed by Trump, it's a Trump-led department, are all somehow in on this plot against Trump, and that they need to be liquidated. Sidney Powell is like, we have to take bleach and a hose and clean up these departments. We have to basically flush them out. And Lou Dobbs is like, well, I think a lot of people would agree with you, Sidney. And then they go on and they say things like, Trump needs to take drastic action. What does that mean? That's terrifying. Because what it might mean is, oh, he just has to do everything in his power. But that's not really drastic. That's just, what Trump has the option to do via the office as president. What does drastic mean, Lou and Sidney? What does it mean? Are you talking sedition? Are you talking Trump trying to take power through force? Are you talking Trump barricading himself in the White House? Are you talking Trump doing whatever it takes to hold on to power? Like, what are you talking about? And the problem is they don't say because they don't need to say, because it's a dog whistle to the most fervent Trump supporters. This is lunacy from Fox News. It is an absolute shame to journalism to put this on the air. And this is encouraging not only the poisoning of democracy, but it's actually encouraging, I think, some people to basically become hostile to their own government. That's what they're encouraging here. Because if you're saying to people, the president needs to take drastic action, the FBI's in on it, the Justice Department is in on it, we have to get rid of all those people, they're all in it to take the election from you and the president, what else is going to be your response? And all I can say here is, again, Fox News, made this bed and they have to goddamn lay in it. They appeased this early on and they allowed some of these things to happen, and they allowed Trump before the election to basically say, if I lose, it's not legitimate. If I win, it is. And then afterwards, they had some of their actual journalists try to pull it back and say, look, president lost, Trump lost, Biden's going to be the new president. We're not happy about it, but it is what it is. But then it was too late. You already planted the seed. You already gave too much power and influence to people like Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity and Sidney Powell, who will perpetuate these fantasies, these awful conspiratorial claims. And now you can't put that genie back in the bottle, especially now when Trump and a lot of people are pushing OAN and Newsmax. They've gotten in on it too. And so Fox News is absolutely trapped. You would love to see it if the side effect wasn't absolute harm to American democracy, because you're seeing in real time millions of conservatives basically lose faith in the democratic process, basically lose faith that what they do, when they mark their ballot matters. Because apparently, and again, there's no basis to these claims, everyone's in on it to stop Trump. And so they're like, why would I even participate in the Georgia primaries? And so Fox is scared about this. Republicans are scared about this. Trump doesn't care. He's going to take it down with the ship. The crazies like Lou Dobbs and Sidney Powell don't care. They're going to take it down with the ship. But that's where they're at. This is an absolutely terrifying moment on Fox News. This really is the closest I've seen for a major, throw it OAN and Newsmax, but a major American news source, whether it's a television news source or a written news source, literally call for the president to go seditious against his own people. It's a dangerous moment for American democracy. I hope it survives it.